Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 37. Today's date is 11/10/2022. So happy early Veterans Day to all veterans. I've got veterans in my family. I think Luke has veterans in his family. And we're happy Veterans Day. First off, we're going to start by recapping some of last week's games. And then we're going to talk about the World Series, I believe. And then we're going to do our picks for this week. Panthers and Falcons is going on right now. Panthers lead 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. We might do a little NFL simulator at the end. So, let's just get on into it. Week 9 went very well for the Show Me Show. I think this was our best percentage week yet. We went at 11-2. We started off the week 60-48. So we've really battled back. Keep in mind 12-20 through the first 2 weeks. So we're really back. We were 12 games above 500 coming into the week. Going into Monday Night Football, we went 10-2, which put us at 70-50, with our only losses being the Packers losing to Detroit. We picked Green Bay, and we also picked Buffalo to beat the Jets, and the Jets obviously won. And then we also won our Monday night game. Baltimore beat New Orleans, so we went 11-2 last week. Very good week, up to 71-50 right now. So that's where we'll start this week when we get to our picks.
How about that? Was that, Luke? What a comeback that we've had.
I know, it really I mean, there's a lot of games to pick, so I knew we would get back over 500 pretty much as soon as we got to like weeks 3 and 4, because weeks 1 and 2, you really just have no idea. Yeah, you really just have no idea, especially this year. I mean, this year is like a special scenario where the parity is at an all-time high in the NFL. And then not just that, but like last week, we talked about with the Falcons-Chargers game, which we were right about. It came down to the wire, just an absolute toss-up of a game that had a really funny moment as well. But, we looked at that game and we're like, this game is going to tell us a lot about not only the Falcons, but more about the Chargers, I think. And it did. I think I feel a little bit better about the Chargers, even though I think I picked San Francisco this week against them. But, we learned a little bit more about them and that they could be really good if they get healthy completely, because they don't even have everybody right now. But, Luke, what games do you want to go over or talk about?
We can talk about the Chargers-Falcons for a little bit. That game was, when I said it, when I picked it last week, I said it was a Chargers-Falcons game. Expect some crazy shit to happen. That is exactly what, when I think of a Chargers-Falcons game, this is exactly what I think about. Falcons being right there with a chance to win. Somehow, some way, have a miraculous play and then find a way to lose. And the Chargers, when I think about them, it's be there at the end of the game and somehow luck into a win you're not supposed to get. That's exactly what happened. So, we got that pick right. I don't really think it told me a lot about the Chargers because their team is still incredibly injured. Like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen were both out. So that's a concern. They got to get those guys healthy for one. And other than that,
I just think their defense is playing solid right now. It's playing better than it probably has the past 2 or 3 years. So that's good for them. I forgot to just go over the games before we started talking about them, so let me do that real quick. Philadelphia over Houston. We predicted that one right. Chargers beat Atlanta. That's the one we're talking about right now. Miami beat Chicago in Chicago. Cincinnati beat the Panthers. Mixon had a 5-touchdown day. Green Bay lost in Detroit, and Aaron Rodgers had a pretty bad day. New England beat the Colts soundly. Ellinger didn't look great, but it also looked like he was kind of just thrown to the wolves, and Reich was fired this week. Buffalo lost
Bad
to the
coach
New
going.
York Jets at MetLife Stadium in a drizzly game where Sauce Gardner picked off. Josh Allen looked not great in that game. It was a bad game, but he's still awesome.
He also may be
but
hurt.
He also might be hurt, yeah. Minnesota over Washington. Thank God I vetoed that one. And Kurt,
that was close.
It was close. I just had a feeling Taylor Heineke just can't score that many points. He can keep them in the game because their defense can kind of keep them in the game, but Kirk Thuggins came out on top there. Las Vegas at Jacksonville. Jacksonville got the win there, and that was a weird game. The Raiders blew another 17-point lead. Seattle over Arizona. I'm glad we picked Seattle, and I'm glad they won. You know, that felt good, watching them win that game. We also this one almost shouldn't even count for the Show Me Show, but LA Rams at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay won that game. The Rams, I mean, they literally just gave it to him for some reason. They just gave Tom Brady the sideline there at the end of the game. We'll talk about that here in a second. And we also got Kansas City at Tennessee right. So a lot of things fell into place this week for the Show Me Show. And then Baltimore kind of trampled over New Orleans. So, yeah, that was the week. Like I said, 11-2. And we picked a lot of really close games, you know, like Minnesota, Washington. That was really close. Chargers, Atlanta. That was really close. Hell, Miami and Chicago was really close. The only games that weren't really close this week was Cincinnati, Carolina. I guess you could say Seattle, Arizona. Seattle kind of controlled it at the end. And Baltimore, New Orleans.
In New England.
Oh, yeah, New England, yeah, for sure.
But one game that you forgot to mention that was really close. The Raiders were up 17-0 over the Jaguars, and Jacksonville came all the way back to win. So, I mean, that game, while it's a touchdown game, that was still an incredibly close game that we were able to pick, you know, despite in the hardships at the beginning when we're getting blown out, Jags come back and win for us. So,
yep, for sure. So yeah, a lot of close games, and on paper, a lot of people online were saying this is just going to be a bad week of football, and there was some, you know, not great football play, but the games were still good. So that was nice. Week 10, there's quite a few more buys too as well. But yeah, that's
good teams on buys as well.
Yeah. Again, Tampa Bay and LA. So let's just talk about this game. A bad offensive showing by both teams the whole game. Tom Brady got to 100,000 passing yards between the playoffs and regular season in this game, which was a cool milestone for him. But they didn't score. He didn't throw a touchdown until the very end when I think Sean McVay blew this game in his defense. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I don't know what they were doing. They were playing like this weird prevent off defense where North Carolina defense does this all the time, but they just do this during the middle of the game. So, yeah, they do this during the middle of the game where they will just play their DBs 12 yards off and just let them dunk right down the field. Tom Brady did hit that big play down the middle of the field to start the drive off, and they spiked it. But, Jalen Ramsey in the other corner, they just threw 12-yard outs and got right down the field, scored, and that was pretty much it. I think that did they have to get the 2? I can't remember now that I'm thinking about it.
No, they just kicked the extra point.
Okay, I couldn't remember. But yeah, that was a wild game. Don't know what the Rams were really doing.
Yeah, I don't really know what the Rams are doing at all this year. If you really ask me, just their offensive line has just been abysmal. Literally, we talk about teams that we thought would have a good offensive line coming into this year. The Rams and the Colts. The Rams had a great offensive line in the playoffs last year all the way to the Super Bowl run, and the Colts have the highest paid offensive line. And they've been two of the worst, if not the bottom two in the league in terms of offensive line. So very surprising to see that.
Don't forget your Steelers.
Oh, well, we kind of expected that coming into the year, though, that they had a bad offensive line.
Hell,
So
even
that's
the
where they
Packers
differ.
at times.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, there's been some games this year where the Packers have struggled offensively. At the offensive line, they've struggled offensively nearly every game, especially on a 5-game losing streak. But I really don't want to talk about this game. I'll be honest. I went on my rant against the Packers last week, and I said that I was full in on losing games. So, hey, we got the 9th pick in the draft right now, and there's only like 3 or 4 teams ahead of us that would take a quarterback. So we just got to get ahead of them, and we're sitting in a good spot for Mr. Bryce Young. But I mean, we got a big game against the Cowboys this week.
I like Bryce Young a lot. You know that. I love watching him play.
Yeah.
And I'd be ecstatic to watch him as a Packer. I'd be ecstatic pretty much to watch him almost anywhere. But the Packers would just be – that would be so weird. I'm trying to wrap my head around. I think it's just because Rodgers has been there so long. And if you don't get Bryce Young, would you personally be okay with C.J. Stroud? I mean, he plays in more cold weather games than Bryce Young. So, I mean, I don't think that's a terrible consolation prize.
Well,
but
I mean,
also Ohio State quarterbacks haven't been working out. So,
well, until Justin Fields. But to me, Bryce Young has been my dream for like the last couple of years to be the successor to Aaron Rodgers.
Same.
So I would. And I can just picture him in the Packers uniform, and it looks so good. I've been picturing him in that green and yellow for years now. So getting C.J. Stroud would be a disappointment. And honestly, if Bryce Young's off the board, we're not taking a quarterback.
No, there's no. Yeah,
we played that game with Jordan Love a few years ago. Didn't work out.
Yeah,
so
that's one thing. Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud kind of look a little alike, so I don't know if I would want to mess with that.
They do.
But, yeah, I'll talk about it briefly.
Look alike too.
Yeah, they kind of do. But the one thing that worries me about Bryce Young is just his size. That just worries me in the NFL. Because he hasn't been able to manage in the SEC, which is basically just one step down from the NFL in terms of how big linemen and linebackers are. You know, linebackers and linemen in the SEC are playing on Sundays every year. So, I mean, he gets hit by those guys constantly, but everybody's an NFL player on defense once you get to the NFL, though. So, in their size, and they're landing on you constantly. So, he might be somebody in the NFL that's really, really going to benefit from the way the NFL is protecting the quarterback nowadays. So that's at least good for him. But like I said, I wouldn't be mad if the Packers got Bryce Young, but I actually disagree with you. I think he needs to play in like a solid color jersey. The Packers jersey is going to look funky on him for a little bit. It's a green and yellow Georgia jersey on him. That's just going to look weird.
Georgia has a solid color jersey.
Yeah, I know. I just meant like the G on the helmet.
Oh, okay. What even are the solid color jerseys in the NFL? Like the Giants?
Giants. I think Jets, kind of.
Not really.
Buccaneers. The Buccaneers red jerseys. And their white ones too. I mean, almost every team's white jerseys. The Ravens, they have pretty solid. There's a couple more, I think. Oh, the Broncos are solid color.
That's
Chiefs.
not a good color for Bryce Young, though.
No, it's not, but I'm just naming off solids. Yeah, I mean, there's solids. Not as many, I think, as there's multicolored, but no. Oh, Vikings.
Oh, the Raiders are solid too.
Yeah, the Raiders are. That's it. Yeah, they might be the most solid now that I think about it. Just the black.
You know what? That might be the best looking jersey on Bryce Young too. Now that I'm thinking about it, that black and silver. I mean, they got a top 3 pick in the draft, so it's very possible.
Who doesn't that look good on though? I don't know. I guess like Kirk Cousins.
True. That's the standard answer for everything. Kirk Cousins looks good in anything. He's literally an average American, white American.
That's a game we can talk about. Kirk Thuggins. You know, I think they scored a touchdown in the first quarter, and I don't know if they scored any until the fourth quarter. I'm not sure, but
I think they scored a field goal.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. But I think they won, 20-17 was the final, or maybe 24-17.
20-17.
The Vikings are they kind of got a little alligator blood. And you have to have alligator blood in the NFL because, you know, even when teams are outmatched, good coaches can scheme against it anyway. But, yeah, I mean, the Vikings, they just don't score a lot of points. But I got to give credit to the football Commanders. You know, their defense is just solid and kept them in it. But I think this is the problem. You know, Heineke is just not very good. And personally, I'd like to see them throw Sam to the Wolves if they have to. Get him in there, I think, soon. What do you think about that? I mean, I think he led the NFL in the preseason in terms of passing yards. I mean, granted, that's the preseason, but they don't have a lot of passing yards right now. I mean, they're not really moving the football.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because at this point in the year, if you're kind of out of it, which the Commanders are 4-5, they're very much in it record-wise, but their team is not a 4-5 caliber team. Like, they're going to regress. And so the teams that are out of it, this is the point of the year where you start talking, how about we play our young guys, see what they got. The Colts are doing it right now. The Packers might do it in a few weeks. And the Commanders, I think, might be a team where they could do that because they've played Taylor Heineke, and he's had a chance to be the guy there, but he hasn't shown it. You know, he's got the fire. He's a fun guy to watch for sure, and he's a great teammate, I would imagine. But he's not the guy. He's not him, if you know what I mean. So I don't really think Sam Howell is either, but you never know until you play. So should they throw him in? Maybe. I'd wait a few weeks so he doesn't have like as much of the season, you know, to potentially fail.
Yeah, if he's not ready, then yeah, you just don't even think about it. But unless you absolutely have to, like if Heineke got hurt. But if he's not ready, then you don't throw him out there. And I think Ron Rivera knows that. But we've seen some rookies this year, you know, like Malik, Kenny Pickett. Hell, I don't think, you know, a single rookie quarterback has done well this year. Pickett, Zappe had a couple of good games he strung together, but now he's not the starter anymore. Ritter hasn't touched the field really except for the preseason. And Malik Willis clearly can't really pass yet, which is a concern.
Well, he doesn't have any receivers. I don't blame him yet because his receivers are ass. Like watching them out there trying to run routes, they're not open at all. And then even if they are open, what are the chances that they're going to catch it? It's literally the Packers receiving core, but worse somehow. I don't even know how there's a team worse than the Packers receiving core, but that is the Titans. They completed no passes to receivers on Sunday night and somehow took the Kansas City Chiefs to overtime. So that to me is a win.
That's Vrabel and Derrick Henry for you. And that defense. Their defense is really good again. So they need, you know, it's funny to say this, but they need Tannehill back bad. So, yeah, and I agree with you. One of their best receivers is their, like, third down receiving running back, Dontrell Hilliard. Or maybe it's just Dante Hilliard. I swear to God, he catches just as many passes as any of the wide receivers. Now, one of their better wide receivers, Treylon Burks, the rookie out of Arkansas. He's been hurt, so they haven't really had much luck with rookie wide receivers lately in recent history besides A.J. Brown. I mean, think about it. They've drafted some studs, and they just have not panned out. Dorial Green-Beckham starts that list, and then you look at A.J. Brown, who panned out, but now they don't even have him. And then Corey Davis out of Western Michigan, and now he plays for the Jets. Another first-round pick missed. And now Treylon Burks. Now, it's too early to tell, and he got injured pretty much immediately as the season started, but they have just missed really hard on the wide receivers lately. And A.J. Brown just continues to troll them online. Like on Twitter, he just keeps tweeting things like during the game. He's just like, there ain't nobody open, and like these guys just suck.
I think he kind of misses them.
Oh, yeah. If you're tweeting at him like that, then he probably does miss it a little bit. I think he's more maybe just like.
Which is weird because he's on.
No, I understand. Yeah. I mean, he's on the Eagles and they're undefeated, but I think it was a little bit of an ego hit. I think that's what he's trying to point out is like, you guys didn't pay me and you have these guys running around and they literally, you aren't completing any passes to them. So he has a good point, but Derrick Henry. So that's, I guess, their counterpoint. But it wasn't enough against the Mahomes. Mahomes went stupid. I mean, he became Lamar Jackson, and he runs so funny, but some of those runs in that game, I don't know if you were able to watch it Sunday night. I mean, he literally just kept them alive that whole game in the second half, running for huge first downs when nobody was open. And you'll see why I have him on my MVP list and when we do the midseason awards. So he's just – Mahomes is my favorite NFL quarterback to watch. I think he's a lot of guys, either Josh Allen, Lamar, or Mahomes. But he's just he's the Bryce Young of college football for me. So, so yeah.
Any other games you want to point out? I guess we could maybe
go ahead.
We could maybe go to the Bills and Jets because the Jets, they are for real.
Yeah,
the only kryptonite they got to get over now is the Patriots. If they can beat the Patriots, not this week because they're on a bye, but next week. If they can beat them in Foxborough, they're a wagon officially. So
yeah, I think their other kryptonite might be Zach Wilson and their quarterback play right now. They've got to improve at the quarterback position, which just means Zach Wilson has to get better. That's basically all that means. So, and he doesn't have to get miles better. I mean, they have that type of defense where you can have Jimmy Garoppolo type play, and you will succeed this year. Now, going forward, you want him to turn a corner, but I think a lot of people have already said this. They kind of just need him to be a game manager, and he was against the Bills, so that's good. This year, that's what they need him to do. That's going to give them, unless he, turns the corner, obviously that would give them an even better chance to win the big one. But, I mean, if they can get a game manager out of him, then they could probably make a solid run in the playoffs. But,
this Jets team, I think they're not really looking to win like the Super Bowl this year. This year, if they make the playoffs and they even just win a game in the wild card, that's a win for them. Because going into this year, no one really expected them to be this good anyway. Some people were like, yeah, they might be sneaky good, be better than last year anyway. But for them to just break the playoff streak, which is the longest in the entire NFL by like 5 years, it's the longest playoff drought. For them to break that and just go to the playoffs, hopefully they have another offseason to, hopefully develop these young players a little bit more. And then next year that's when the Super Bowl talk starts. So, also,
Yeah.
interesting note to mention that the second longest playoff drought is the Broncos. So if the Jets make it this year, the Broncos officially have the longest playoff drought, which would be weird.
Which, yeah, it's so weird to say that out loud because the Broncos just won the Super Bowl in my mind, but it's been eons, really, since they've even been to the playoffs. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Another game I just wanted to take a quick peek at was the surprising shootout in the Windy City, where Justin Fields kind of went nuts in the loss to the Dolphins, and the deciding factor in that game was actually a blocked punt for, I think, a touchdown. So, the Bears stayed with the Dolphins in a shootout, and Tua is awesome. That's another thing. I mean, they're undefeated when Tua plays the full game.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the Bears have got to be excited as well. So, the way Justin Fields is all of a sudden coming along a little bit, not turning the ball over as much, breaking the record for most rushing yards by a quarterback in a single game. So,
yeah.
Maybe they've got something
that he had where he's just juking people out. That was incredible to watch.
And he just turned.
Mike McDaniel even telling him.
Yeah,
Mike McDaniel even telling him on the sideline to stop scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then in the post-game press conference, he was like, he didn't listen, So it's kind of funny to see that. That's Mike McDaniel though at his best. So he's just a funny guy that happens to be a nerd at knowing football. So, and
it's also easier to say that in the post-game press conference when you win. So,
oh yeah, definitely
for sure. So
they would have lost.
Yeah, that's another thing. Tom Brady had a really funny post-game press conference as well. And pardon my French, but he after the game, he walks up to the podium and, a big smile on his face, and he says, "That was awesome." And the media room started laughing. He goes, "That was fucking awesome." And you know what? Like I said, I kind of hope that either the Packers or the Buccaneers, one of them, got going so that we can have one last ride with the GOAT quarterbacks. And I wouldn't be mad if the Buccaneers go on a little run or at least win the NFC South. I don't want them to beat the Seahawks this weekend, but I wouldn't be mad if they win the NFC South. So there's that. But even though I did just write them off, I think like a week or two ago, saying how bad they were, and they did not look good, in the win. You know what I mean? I mean, like I said, the Rams just gave them that game at the very end. So they did not look good. No. I mean, Brady looked fine. They just keep dropping. They just keep dropping footballs. Scotty Miller dropped a wide open touchdown pass that hit him in the noggin, and Mike Evans has had some drop issues. Yeah, so just Buccaneers really aren't that good either, but they got the win. I think that's pretty much it. Seattle, I'm glad they won. Talked about that. Baltimore kind of just rolled. And Kansas City and Tennessee played a really awesome game, even though there wasn't a whole lot of points. So, yeah, that was just a good football game. And the Colts got smeared by Bill Belichick. So yeah.
So much that Frank Reich got fired, which to me, he was a good coach at a time. He's a very smart football guy, but he gave off sad vibes this year. Like just seeing him on the sidelines after the Colts were, they're getting blown out, and just looking at him on the sidelines, I'm like, this guy's a loser. This guy, he just embodies sadness. And it was the same thing with Matt Rule. When we saw him in that coach's picture at the beginning of the year, he was a defeated man. And that's what Frank Reich was this year. Frank Reich was just simply defeated. And that to me is when it's over. Like you just got to fire him. There's no coming back from that. And the guy who's probably next on the hot seat is Cliff Kingsbury of the Cardinals. They're 3-6. He really hasn't done anything as the Cardinals head coach, anything special anyway. But he has not yet given off the sad, defeated vibes yet. Like when I look at him, I still see a little bit of energy. Now in a few weeks, if they're sitting there at they're 3-8, they're 4-9, completely out of the playoff race, you might see a sad Cliff Kingsbury start to come out, and then you'll know that it's over for him. But to me, I thought this was a good fire. You know, it was going to happen anyway. And then they go out and hire Jeff Saturday as their interim coach, which, I mean, shocked a lot of people. I don't mind. I'm interested to see how it works because usually someone will promote someone with usually head coach experience within their organization. Doesn't always have to be, but usually you'll see that's how it works. And they never work out. Like they just finish out the rest of the year as the interim head coach. Usually never make the playoffs. It was very rare when Rich Bisaccia did that last year. That was incredible with the Raiders. But they usually just they win maybe their first 2 games, and then after that they just fall off again. So going outside the organization, as Jim Irsay said, to a guy who they thought might be a good head coaching candidate for the Colts in the future, why not go out and get him right now and just see what he can do, see what he can do with the guys. Obviously, it sucks because he didn't come from the organization, so he's going to have to like learn how everything goes. In the middle of the year, he doesn't have like a chance to set a culture really until next year. We talk about that in college football all the time with coaches, but I'm interested to see how that works out.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday, North Carolina football legend, was a little before my time. Before he got in the saddle with Peyton Manning, but North Carolina football legend, goes to a lot of their games, represents them well. So I'm happy for him that he gets the gig. That being said, I'm still quite shocked that they gave it to him over Reggie Wayne, John Fox, guys like that who are already in-house. And John Fox has been an NFL coach for the Bears.
Who's their defensive coordinator? Because he has, I'm blanking on his name right now, but I want to say, never mind. But he's in the organization as well, and he was Gus Malzahn. Is he on their roster? I think he is.
Gus Malzahn is a college football coach for UCF, but I think you're talking about Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator.
Gus Bradley, yes. Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not Gus Malzahn. He used to be the coach of Auburn.
Yep. He took him to a national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jeff Saturday, the most he's ever coached is high school football. So this will be interesting. And that's why I'm taking the Raiders when we get to the picks. I'm just doing that. If they would have hired like Reggie Wayne or John Fox, I think I probably would have taken the Colts. But Jeff Saturday literally knows nothing about nothing in terms of head coaching in the NFL. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But
yeah.
All right. Do you want to move on?
You want to do our midseason picks, or are you going to talk about the World Series?
I think we should. Do you want to keep it football then baseball? But I kind of want to talk about the World Series.
All right, yeah, let's talk about the World Series then. So, what's today? Thursday. So Saturday night,
Yep.
The Houston Astros won their first title in franchise history, beating the Philadelphia Phillies 4-2 in the series. It was a very competitive series. The fact that this didn't go 7, I felt very robbed because both teams played each other hard like the entire series. It was back and forth. Obviously, Game 1, Phillies came back from 5 runs. Game 2 was kind of a blowout. Game 3 was really a blowout, but just flip sides. And then Game 4 was the no-hitter, which we didn't mention last week, but the Astros did throw the second no-hitter in MLB history. Kind of a Mickey Mouse no-hitter because, obviously it was a combined no-hitter. It wasn't by one pitcher, so it's not as cool. but it's still a no-hitter, so it's just like it's like a COVID ring. It's still a ring, but there's a little bit of an asterisk next to it. And then Game 5 was really competitive, back and forth. And then Game 6, obviously Schwarber starts off the 6th with that massive home run, and then Jordan hit probably the biggest home run you will ever see in your life. Like, it was just a nuke to the moon in center field, like above that big grass statue that they have out there in center field, hit that above it. So hitting it out to center field itself over the fence is over 400 feet, but hitting it above that, it's got to be a 30-foot tall piece of grass in center field. Just an absolute moonshot to give them a 3-1 lead, and pretty much that pretty much killed the Phillies. That was the death shot. That was the kill shot. So Jeremy Pena wins the World Series MVP. That was very cool. And yeah, I mean, I love Jeremy Pena, so happy for him. Dusty Baker finally wins his World Series, the most games managed without winning a World Series ever. So that's really cool. And yeah, that was the quick recap of the series, I guess.
Yeah. You said you felt robbed of 7, but for me, honestly, when I took a step back and looked at the series as a whole, I kind of felt like the Astros kind of dominated them a little bit. I think, the Game 1 comeback, I think you could look to that as either the Phillies just showing a lot of fight, or you could look at that as just a giant fluke. And then other than that, I mean, the Phillies had that one game where they were just smashing home runs. But then in every other game, I mean, the Astros pretty much dominated pretty much all the other games, it felt like. And it almost feels like, if the Phillies got to choose, would you rather have Schwarber hit that home run to lead off the game or later in the game? Because after that, it didn't seem like they had a whole lot of juice. It seemed like they used all their juice at the beginning, which, that's obviously just from a fan's perspective. But the Astros, no matter how you put it, they were just clearly the better team, I think. And yeah. I'm glad that the Phillies made this run, but I mean, the Astros were the better team, and I was rooting for the Phillies. I'm the people that just let the Astros put all that cheating stuff in their rearview mirror when they got pretty much no punishment. Part of their punishment was that they had to hire Dusty Baker. Think about that. So, and now they just won another World Series. So, yeah, I'm just not a fan of the Astros, and that's basically the only H-Town team I hate. I don't mind the Texans, and I don't mind the Rockets, but I definitely do not like the Astros.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, I was a big hater of the Astros too, but to me, whenever they won the World Series, whenever Kyle Tucker made that catch at foul territory to officially clinch it, that's when I was kind of like, all right, I can maybe let this cheating stuff maybe ease a little bit. It's still there. And as I said when I first mentioned that this was the first World Series title in Astros history, that was the pettiness to the one in 2017 they won with the cheating. So it's still there for me. I'm not completely throwing it out the window, but I am like recognizing that they were a good team back then. Yeah, that helped a lot. That may have helped Altuve's numbers and maybe him win the MVP over Judge. Certainly. Help the rest of the team as well down the stretch, maybe win some games. But ultimately, they're a good team, and I'm willing to put that in the past and be like, all right, this Astros team that won this year, they won clean. A lot of them aren't even the same guys. Like,
yeah, that's the thing that I don't hate. That's another thing, I don't hate their players, really. Not a big fan of some of the ones that were a part of the cheating scandal, like Bregman and whatnot, and Altuve, but I'm not. Why would I hate? This happens a lot, and like a great example of this is actually the Los Angeles Rams. I have no reason to hate Aaron Donald or Cooper Kupp or Matt Stafford, but goddamn, do I hate the Rams and do I hate Kroenke? I will not like them forever. So And I think that's how I am with the Astros right now. Is I really don't like their organization and the team, and basically nowadays it's kind of just I don't like the logo. I'm hating on the logo. I'm not hating on the players really. I mean, some of them have nothing to do with it. And they just signed there because they wanted to win baseball games, and I have no problem with guys being competitive like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a total hate anymore, I guess, but. There was a time when it really, really was.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
Still definitely at the bottom of my MLB teams probably, but it's more just the organization, I think. And I think it's also man fraud. But even actually, man fraud lately has actually been doing some solid things here and there. So no, I don't like that one.
I don't like that take, but yeah, I mean, the only guys that are really there are Gurriel. He was there in 2017. He was also being a racist in 2017, but we won't mention that. Altuve was there. Bregman was there. I think Maldonado was there, if I remember, and that's about it. So like Pena, maybe some of the almost all the pitchers are new except for Justin Verlander. He was there, and McCullers. But everyone else is new. Like they have a new manager. AJ Hinch isn't there anymore. It's Dusty. They have a new GM. Jeff Luhnow isn't there. It's James Click. And I think Jim Crane, he's still there, but he didn't really have a lot to do with it, I don't think. So this team really just reloaded. They got rid of all the guys that cheated, except for a few of the players that I just named. And they just reloaded and came back and won a title. So. I mean, props to them for doing that. And this was kind of the final monkey off their back because it's like a what are you going to say now? Because before they won the World Series, people could say, oh, they would be World Series list if they didn't cheat. Now they can't say that anymore. So this is kind of just, I mean, that's props to the Astros for doing that because I know a lot of those players, it took a gutsy effort. So. To just avoid that team in the media and all that. So.
Yeah, really good team. I gotta talk about Drake London over the middle, caught a slant, and just got absolutely annihilated by the guy who dropped the interception at the beginning of the game, Woods. The one where it just popped off his hands. He got flagged for it too. When I thought it was a fine hit, but he absolutely nailed him. It was like a video game animation hit, and he held on to it though. And it's raining in Charlotte right now. 13-0 right now.
This game is giving off huge Madden vibes. Like some of the plays that have happened. I would have seen that animation in Madden. The fact that it's raining, the fact that the jerseys are like really cool. Like that's something I would do. I always make the jerseys cool. So it's just like, what is going on right now? But very Madden vibes for this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
So the World Series, like Jeremy Pena was the MVP. This was his first year. He had nothing to do with the cheating scandal. Yordan Alvarez, who had probably the biggest hit of the series, he wasn't on the team either. Altuve really had no effect on the series. He was kind of ass. And I mean, the pitching, they got it done. Verlander finally gets a World Series win, so that's kind of cool. I mean, that's World Series talk. The offseason is officially started, so some of like the big free agent markets are heating up. And I love the MLB offseason because it seems like there's always like big free agents. Although we did find out today.
Except that 1 year. Was it last year when Scherzer signed and then it was just nothing for... When was the lockout?
Well, it was nothing because the lockout started.
Yeah. That was last year, though. We just had this big delay in stuff happening.
Exactly.
So,
like everyone signed before the lockout, and then
but there was a lot of guys who did.
Article came out today. Cardinals article came out today that basically said, even though Mosaic said the payroll is going up, it's not really going to go up that much. Don't expect a big free agent signing. And I to say this, I'm not surprised. The fact that Mo came out and said that, I was like, wow, something's going to change. No, he just kind of lied to us. So until I see it with my own eyes, I will not believe it. Until I see us ink Trey Turner down in paper or Wilson Contreras, until I see one of those two happen, I will not believe a big offseason is in store.
Yeah, I mean, Mo kind of usually does most of his work via the trade button. Not usually the sign free agent button. It'd be nice to see him make one here, though, here or there. But yeah, I don't think fans really have a whole lot of hope for that because why would they? They haven't seen it before. So maybe Mo can sign somebody this year to get people's hopes up about Mo's cooking, and then next year maybe we'll have our hopes up again. But it starts with this year. Maybe grab a catcher, like you just said. Contreras would be pretty awesome, even though he's a Cub. Which is kind of surprising that, like, he, in my mind, for some reason, just because of how much I dislike the Cubs, I just think in my mind that the Cubs players would never want to come to St. Louis either, because I just think that they would hate us too. But I just don't think that's how it always works in professional sports players' minds. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a brawl in the Tulsa-Memphis game. I'm trying to get some video of it.
Oh. All right. You want to move on to our midseason awards?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. So what we did is me and Cam each made our top 3 in a bunch of different award categories. Since week 9 is officially over, so this is the official halfway point of the season, we made our show me show halfway NFL awards. So midway, halfway, whatever you want to say. Let's say halfway because it's the exact halfway awards, and we actually gave our top 3 in each category. And so, like, number 1 is 3 points, number 2 is 2 points, number 3 is 1 point. All that is going to be added up and averaged so that we come up with a collective show me show top 3. So, start us off. We'll go offensive player of the year. We'll save MVP for last. So, show me show offensive player of the year goes to Tyreek Hill, unanimously, over 1,000 receiving yards this year. Been absolutely incredible. And then we have a tie for second place. Derrick Henry and Stephon Diggs are tied for second and third. Defensive player of the year, another unanimous pick, Micah Parsons.
Wait. What happened? What about Saquon?
He didn't finish top 3. You put him as third, but collectively,
I put Tyreek, Derrick Henry, and Saquon. What are your top 3?
Tyreek, Stephon Diggs, and Justin Jefferson. I put all receivers. But now that I'm actually looking at...
How did Derrick Henry get in the top then?
Because he tied with Diggs for the amount of points.
Oh, okay.
He had 2 points total.
Okay.
But so now that I'm thinking about it...
I'm Tyreek, Henry, and Diggs then, not Jefferson.
Yeah. Exactly. Jefferson was in my top 3, but I'm actually... Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm taking Jefferson out of third. I'm putting Saquon third. Because in my mind, he has been really good and a huge part of the Giants offense. So it's a 3-way tie for second between Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Stephon Diggs. So congrats to them. Defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons, was unanimous. And then a tie for second place again with Matthew Judon and Sauce Gardner. How about that for defensive players? And then coach of the year, unanimous once again, Nick Sirianni is the halfway coach of the year, which was my pick at the beginning. So kind of interesting there. Brian Dable takes home second place. And then Pete Carroll takes home third. So those are our top 3. Offensive rookie of the year goes to Kenneth Walker unanimously. And then Damian Pearson second. And then a 2-way tie between Chris Olave and Romeo Dobbs as for third place. Defensive Rookie of the Year, we have Sauce Gardner, unanimous once again. Tariq Woolen in second place. And then Kobe Bryant and Devin Lloyd split for third place. And then last but definitely not least, the Show Me Show halfway MVP. And these, we had the exact same top three, like in order. So Jalen Hurts was unanimous 1. Patrick Mahomes was unanimous 2. And then Tua Tagovailoa finishes 3rd. That's our halfway. You want to talk about any of your picks that you had down?
Yeah. I'll talk about here. Let's take a look at Defensive Player of the Year. We had Parsons unanimous right now. He's tearing it up. Matt Judon, 3 sacks ahead of everybody else, 11.5, and making a lot of plays. Not only in the backfield, but just kind of over the all over the field for the Patriots right now. So I have him up there, and obviously Aaron didn't crack the top 3 for our voting here, but everybody is literally just having a game plan just for him. And it's been like that for like 4 or 5 years now. But it was so evident against the Buccaneers, who have a battered up offensive line. But oh my gosh, Aaron Donald was just going nuts against the Buccaneers. So that's why I just have him up there. He just does that constantly.
Yep.
Pete Carroll.
I'll be honest, I don't even know why I put Sauce Gardner as second. I love the way he's played. I think he's a huge part of why the Jets defense is really good this year. I mean, he is the unanimous defensive rookie for sure. So that's why I just put him second, because I was like, this guy's been amazing.
Yeah, he probably has been. Although it always seems like really good rookie linebackers, get overlooked all the time, like Devin White during his rookie season, Roquan Smith during his rookie season, and that's kind of what's happening to Devin Lloyd this season. He is having a crazy year for the Jaguars, but it doesn't really matter because both Sauce and Woolen are playing really good. The Seahawks have had some really good drafts lately with their players, Jordan Brooks, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant. So,
Kenneth Walker,
yeah. They're drafting well all of a sudden, and they weren't really drafting that well when Russ was in town. So, I don't know, something has changed.
Well, here's
recently.
the thing. It's just why whenever after the draft, we always grade who won the draft, who lost the draft. The Seahawks most definitely won this draft. You look, they drafted a stud at corner. They drafted 2 studs, Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant. And then also they drafted Kenneth Walker, who's a stud at running back. None of those guys were really top picks that we thought, they would go to win the draft. But that's why winning the draft and losing the draft, those conversations are so stupid, because look at what the Seahawks just did.
Yeah, but we love it. We love it that's our football fill during April that we need. So
yeah,
you'll never stop
Makes
us
sense.
from doing that. So, although shout out to the Battlehawks who are going to be playing football here this winter in spring. So
surprised we didn't have that as a say hello last week. That would have been a perfect.
That's true.
Teams were announced, but
me and my dad had I can't remember if we had bought them already. The tickets, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been refunded, or if he was just holding out like right before we were going to go to a game in March, and then COVID just killed it all. And this is when we were selling out the complete lower bowl of the Edward Jones Dome, and to where they had to start opening up the upper decks, which was so cool. And Jordan Ta'amu was actually so good for us. And it's funny, there's quite a few NFLers on that team that were on that XFL team. Taylor Heineke, who didn't even start for us. I feel like there's a couple more offensive players, but there was the safety out of West Virginia, whose last name is Robinson, who's in the NFL. I can't remember if he's with the Panthers or somebody else now. But yeah, I'd like to go to a game. I really don't like going into downtown St. Louis anymore because it's just so dangerous nowadays. But I'd go for some football. So
yeah, of course. I mean, that exact same thing's going to happen again. That they're going to pack the bottom bowl and have to open up the top. And then one last thing before we get to our picks is just to talk about the MVP race. So we had the exact same top three. So it's kind of cool on me and you think alike on that. Jalen Hurts has just been incredible this year. One of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he's on an undefeated team. So that pretty much gives you
helps.
MVP. And then Mahomes is just Mahomes. He's just been amazing this year. And then Tua having a very surprisingly dominant year with the help of Tyreek Hill. So that's why he's third.
Yeah.
Self-explanatory. I have.
What about Geno? Geno?
He was my 4.
Okay. I was thinking about, there's 2 really, and the other one's kind of a shock too. Kirk Thuggins. Kirk and Geno, man. I feel like they both could be at 4 and 5. I know Kirk hasn't put up a ton of crazy stats, but they're 7 and 1. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, I see where you get that take from, but my 4 would be Geno, and then my 5 would be Josh Allen, just because he's had a few rough weeks here recently, ever since the bye, but he's been incredible this year.
I think he's probably completely out of it. Really good. Maybe not as of today, but going forward, he's probably out of it because he's probably going to have to sit this week and maybe even the next week. Who knows? We briefly mentioned that he's probably hurt. UCL sprain in his elbow.
Yeah, that's like a baseball injury. When you think about that, you're like, oh, that's a pitcher. Because what happens when people get Tommy John? That's a pitcher tearing or doing something with their UCL, their ulnar collateral ligament. And that's exactly what Josh Allen is dealing with right now. So if he's out for a long time.
Well, he won't get surgery until the season's over.
Yeah.
MLB pitchers have to get the surgery right away. So
if they ever want to throw again, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Which could be dangerous down the line, but so yeah, that was the awards. So you want to jump into the picks now for next week? Yeah.
Although one thing I wanted to ask you about, what do you think? We don't even have to spend that much time on it. What do you think about the Heisman race right now? The MVP of college football.
It's weird. Very weird. There hasn't been like one dominant player that stuck out this year.
Drake May.
Like there's been a bunch of
Drake May.
No, I mean he's up there. He's definitely up there.
He's been dominant the whole season.
I know, but I'm talking about like just blowing away. Like a few, like Devontae Smith was so obvious a few years ago. Joe Burrow, he was just dominant. The clear like front runner. Derrick Henry had an absolutely dominant season. I'm trying to think of some of like the recent ones. Baker Mayfield in his Heisman year was incredible. Johnny Manziel, so you just have like these guys.
Let me tell you this. In both Jameis Winston's Heisman season and Lamar Jackson's Heisman season, Drake May has better passing than both Lamar and Jameis, and Drake May has 547 rushing yards, which is pretty close to what Lamar had during his Heisman season.
How about that?
So they're actually like, a few weeks ago, he was like on the outside looking in, but in a bunch of polls now, Drake May is actually in the Heisman race. I think it's between. He definitely should. I mean, he's got 31 touchdown passes. Which is crazy.
Tar Heels are 7-1 now, aren't they?
The Tar Heels. Believe it or not, it's hard for me to even imagine this because. The Bobby Bowden always he said, first you lose big, then you lose close, then you win close, then you win big. Last year the past couple of years, actually, which is kind of bad that we were stuck at this point for so long. But Tar Heels were just losing close all the time, 6-6, 7-6, that kind of stuff. This year, they're winning close. They win all their games by just the narrowest of margins. They just have to make your heart stop if you're a Carolina fan. But North Carolina, they're like one of, I think it's like one of like 6 or 7 teams, maybe it's 8. They're still in the college football playoff race, and that to me is just crazy. But it's
even
true.
Alabama's
it's wild.
Even Alabama is out.
That is what's crazy. I mean, Alabama is out of the college football race before the University of North Carolina is in the year 2022. So that's really just a wild stat.
You think about Alabama, though, they're literally 2 plays away from them being undefeated and the number 1 team in the nation. If the Tennessee kicker misses that kick, it goes to overtime. And who knows what happens if that game goes to overtime? They still could lose, but they might win if he misses that kick, which barely went in, by the way. And then the LSU 2-point conversion. Guess what? If that guy doesn't catch that ball, or if he doesn't get over that pylon there at the end of the game, Alabama is sitting here. If both those things happen, they're sitting here, the number 1 team in the nation still, with some big wins over Texas, LSU, Tennessee, teams like that, and they all have wins over all of them. Boom, they're set. So it's kind of wild to think about them being out. But I mean, the Heisman race is weird.
I'd say
because there's a bunch of guys.
CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had a bad week against Northwestern, but it happens. Bryce Young's pretty much completely fallen out of it, even though he's one of the best players in the country. I think right now,
Hendon Hooker, CJ Stroud is in it.
I don't know about Hooker. I think some people had him out of it as well. Stetson Bennett
had a bad week.
Stetson Bennett is on the outside looking in right now, but he's trending up. Blake Corum is on most people's lists at like 3 or 4.
They should just put the entire Michigan offensive line on the Heisman list. Like all 5 of those guys should just get the Heisman. But
there is an award for the best offensive line in college football. I can't remember. It's not the Remington Trophy. It's something else, where they just give it to the school for having the best offensive line. But yeah, I don't think Max Duggan is on top 4 lists from TCU. I don't know how I almost forgot that Caleb Williams is in most people's top 4 right now. So that's pretty much the list. It's like a few quarterbacks: Drake May, Stroud, Caleb Williams, and like Blake Corum. So,
it'll be interesting. It's going to come down to the stretch run here. Somebody's going to have a Heisman moment, and it's going to lock it up for him. But as far as the college football playoff goes, it's interesting this year. We said Alabama's out, so that's something we didn't really see coming. We thought they had a really good team coming into this year, which their defense has actually been underwhelming. That's probably why.
No, it's been their secondary has been bad. So,
yeah. So Georgia's in pretty much because they're not gonna lose any more games in the regular season. If they lose, it's the SEC championship, right? Mm-hmm. So, Ole Miss, they have a big game this week against Alabama. If Ole Miss beats Alabama, they're back in all of a sudden with their only loss being LSU,
who beat Bama.
Is kind of still, who's still in the race.
LSU's
somehow.
in it.
Funny enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, very much. They got to win out, but
no, they have to win out, and they're gonna. They probably have to win the Texas A&M and Arkansas game kind of convincingly. No, I'll say they probably have to win those games convincingly. And then they have to beat Georgia. And honestly, if you ask me if you beat Georgia, and so what about this? If you beat Georgia at all, and maybe your Arkansas and LSU games aren't very convincing, honestly, beating Georgia might be good enough to punch your ticket, if you ask me. You know,
I would say so. I mean, it depends on what the rest of the league does because it's very interesting. Like Ohio State and Michigan, they play the last week of the year. one of them's going to get knocked out. Like, they both can't make it. They're not going to put two Big Ten teams.
It's too late.
The only way I could see that is if they like play a really, really close game, and like both teams like play really good football, and one team just kind of lucks into it at the end. Then I could maybe see that, especially if it's Ohio State that lucks into it, because it's at Ohio State, so I guess they'll probably be favored. And then TCU, they're currently sitting at 4th, and they're undefeated. So if they win out, I would imagine they're in, and they would be a very fun team to have. Although if they make it, I could definitely see one of those scenarios where it's like Georgia versus TCU, and it's just a classic 1-4 blowout.
Well, the only TCU, way,
but they just can't compete.
The only way Georgia. So the only way Georgia would probably get to play TCU is if they lose a game. Because if TCU goes undefeated, I don't think the committee will make them the 4 seed, because that's just mean, you know. I think they'll make them a 2 or a 3 because, I mean, that's, you know, Senator Palpatine once said that's certain death, you know. That is just Georgia versus TCU. I mean, the alligator blood will run out against Georgia. So, but who knows? They could probably hang around with whoever the 3 team is if they were ranked number 2, because TCU's only path in is going undefeated, you know. So,
yeah.
And then the other domino to look at is what happens in the Pac-12, as well as Tennessee. You know, they don't control their own destiny, but they just have to win convincingly. They have to win out and win convincingly, which starts with Mizzou this week, who is 20.5-point dog.
Prayer to Mizzou. Yeah, just a prayer to Mizzou this week, because they are going down to Rocky Top, and they're going to get their faces just ripped off, and it's going to be a very tough scene. So,
well, you know, Mizzou's 20.5-point dogs. And depending on what book, I saw another book, it was 21.5, 21. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to be shocked if Mizzou covers. And I'll say this, I know that sounds crazy.
I wouldn't either.
But Mizzou's defense to me is like one of the top 10 defenses in the country. I think they're one of the best in the SEC, and I think they're one of the best in the country. Their offense, I mean, if they had a below average offense, they would probably be like 6-2 right now. But they literally have like one of the worst offenses.
Do you remember early on when the Jaden Daniels like said he might come to Mizzou, and it was actually announced by some accounts, but I think it was fake, that he had committed his transfer to Mizzou? If that would have been true, if he would have came to Mizzou, they'd be a top 15 team right now. And you can't tell me otherwise.
Probably.
Because the reason, I mean, their offensive line has been really bad, but I don't want to put it all on Brady Cook either, but he has been a huge reason why this team has underperformed. The defense has been amazing. Like you said, one of the best in the SEC, and that's the truth for sure. The receivers have been great. The running back play's been kind of down, but you can survive without good running back play.
That is also put back on the linemen, if you ask me. I think it's mostly on 3 things, really. Drink's play calling, offensive line play, and quarterback play. And probably more quarterback play than offensive line play. You just got to – and we say this on this show, it seems like almost every show now. If you don't have a quarterback, whether you're in the NFL or college football, you're just not relevant. And that's the case with Mizzou. I mean, Brady Cook, the only route I swear that man can hit is the freaking dig route across the middle of the field. And other than that, he is about as inconsistent as it gets. And their offensive line is bad, so that doesn't really help. And it just doesn't bode well with Drink's bad play calling at times. So, and of course, you know, you have all that going against you, plus one of the worst college football luck in the history of college football. You know, I mean, Mizzou is like famously known for having the worst luck. So, it showed last weekend. So, once again, not really shocked, but yeah, I mean, if they had Jaden Daniels, they would certainly be better. But I don't know. That kind of reminds me of a Kelly Bryant situation. I think Jaden Daniels is probably better than Kelly Bryant, but Kelly Bryant kind of would have been walked into the same situation that Jaden Daniels would have been walking into, except with better wide receivers. But
yeah,
I don't know how great they would be.
That's a good point. I believe that, but next year, Drink's got to give up his play calling duties. It's just not it. Also, what the hell is up with them extending him 2 years? That doesn't make any sense to me to do that now. But like, if you want to do it at the end of his contract, I guess so. But why would you do it now? You still got the rest of this year plus another year. Or it might have been 2 more years after this year. So why is there a need to?
It's due through 2027, and the big one that I was super happy with, because our defensive coordinator has been a revolving door, and in fact, he's our former defensive coordinator from last year is coaching in this game right now. Steve Wilkes for the Panthers, head coach right now, interim head coach. But he was the defensive coordinator for Mizzou last year. But Blake Baker, one of the best defensive coordinators of the country, we just locked him up for till 2025, which is huge. I mean, by then he'll probably be a head coach. But back to your Drink signing. The thing about the Drink signing or extension is it may have the big statistics about it haven't really come out. At least I haven't seen them. It may have lowered his buyout with the extension in years. And if he has success, you just paid less for it. So it's not really a terrible situation. At the end of the day, you can always fire him and buy him out. It's expensive, but you can always do it. And Drink's buyout isn't, Gus Malzahn money or Brian Harsin money, but it's not as crazy as those. And I actually think a lot of people are saying that the extension made the buyout less. So, Drink doesn't have really any leverage. So, yeah. And I know people are, get frustrated with Drink, and so do I, but this is a year where we wanted to see improvement, and we haven't seen a lot. But I don't want it. I'm fine if it's not the end of the road for Drink at the end of this year. I'm fine with giving him more time because he had a heck of a recruiting class a couple classes ago. So, and I want to see where those guys go. So that's Mizzou. That's Mizzou talk. Tiger talk. And they opened their college basketball college season. Talk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true. College basketball. But that should have been we missed some good say hellos last week. So, yeah, you want to get to our picks now to finish out the show?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay. Just one quick note, by the way. Tough scene for us. We got to go to this stupid time. The winter time, I don't know, remember if it's standard time or daylight savings time, but no, it is standard time because we just got rid of daylight savings time. It gets dark before 5 p.m. and I hate it. So we're kind of on the hot seat. All the humans.
It kind of happens every year though. So yeah, and people never get used to it. Seems like. Okay, let's see here.
This year just hit me differently. I don't know why. All right, game 1, Falcons-Panthers. Who'd you have? Falcons?
I mean, I don't want to say it out loud now, but I had the Falcons. But it's not looking good right now.
So
13-3 right now, Panthers lead. A third of the way through the third quarter.
This game shouldn't even count, really. It's the Falcons and the Panthers. Shouldn't count. Come on. It's a fake game.
It is a fake game. In fact, I know a lot of people online were, using this as, a way to spend a Thursday night to spend with loved ones, actually, instead of watching this game. Telling their loved ones that, it's Bills Chiefs round 2, but we don't have to watch that this time around. Let's do what you guys want to do. So, shout out to the people that are doing that. Yeah, not me. I've got it on, but yeah, it's not a great game. Not a whole lot of offense. But yeah, I had Atlanta. Obviously, we can't really veto it now. The game's already started, but next one, Seattle versus Tampa Bay. Not at Tampa Bay, versus Tampa Bay, because this is neutral site action in the very first game in Germany, in Munich. Yeah, so that game, I think, starts at like 9:30. So if I stay up really late, I'll wake up at about the fourth quarter, which is always nice.
Yeah.
I'm taking Seattle. I like picking the Seahawks every week. It makes me feel good when they win.
This is like an obvious pick, though, I feel like.
Yeah,
The
I mean, with
Bucs
how
are terrible.
But I can, and you know what, Luke? You're right. I said that even a couple episodes ago, or maybe it was like, I can't remember when I said that, how bad the Bucs are, but
You counted them out. They were your out last week. We did in and out.
It's the Tom Brady fact. It's the Tom Brady effect. I can't get it through my thick skull that they're bad because of Tampa Tom. So, but I'm taking Seattle. Going against the grain. That is Tom Brady, even though they suck. And I wrote them off in my in and out.
I agree with you, though.
Okay. Minnesota at Buffalo. Interesting game in terms of records. 7-1 Minnesota. What, 6-2 Buffalo?
Yep. In the Bills Mafia. This is where the Vikings break.
Think about this, though. I took Buffalo here, but what if Josh Allen doesn't play? Then you're playing Chad. Then you're playing Case Keenum.
Yeah. But their team is so good. Their defensive line.
The Vikings are good too, Luke. I know it's not like they're not like some flashy team, but 7-1 is 7-1. And usually 7-1 teams can beat backup quarterbacks.
Not the Vikings.
I took the Bills, but
you know what? I'll go out on a limb and I'll say if Case Keenum plays, the Bills still win.
Okay.
So I'm confident.
And now I just look.
The Vikings have been bending recently. They've been playing some really close games with teams they really shouldn't be close with, and they've just pulled out wins. Which, I mean, hey, the Vikings usually lose those games, at least in recent years. So could be something. But they've been bending a lot. They're due for a break, and this is just a perfect spot where people wouldn't even be mad about it.
Don't break. Bend don't break. This is like another chance for them to get a win against a bad team if Case Keenum plays. And this is the Kirk Cousins spotlight. 1 p.m.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. But are you saying that the Bills are a bad team without Josh Allen?
I wouldn't say that they're like a great team with him.
Well, yeah, they're like right now they're a top 3 team in the league with the Eagles and the Chiefs. I think that's pretty obvious. But even without Josh Allen, this team is still top 10. Like they're not going to be that level with the Chiefs and Eagles, but they're still a very good team and probably similar to the Vikings. I mean, they got one of the best receiving cores. They got Stephon Diggs, who may be the best receiver in the league. Gabe Davis is amazing. Isaiah McKenzie's been playing good. They got one of the best offensive line units in the league. We just talked about their defensive line. That's one of the best. And as far as their linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, and then their secondary to go along with Leslie Frazier and Ken Dorsey and Sean McDermott and all, that team beats, with Case Keenum at quarterback, that team still beats, I'd say, 20 of the NFL teams.
Well, okay.
In a head-to-head matchup.
Another angle here to look at is Case Keenum revenge game. He's the one who threw the Minneapolis Miracle to Stephon Diggs. So there's a little chemistry there. But I'm typing it in right now because I want to know.
Stephon Diggs revenge game as well, if you think about it.
Not terribly old. Only 34. I don't I just had this vision of Zadarius Smith like really throwing him down hard, and actually now they're onto their third string quarterback, and I don't even know who that is. I don't know. I just had this vision.
Matt Barkley.
Oh my God! If Matt Barkley has to get into the game, that would be a disaster.
That would be a disaster. Then the Bills might be a bad team with Matt Barkley. But I just had a crazy thought that came to me. What if Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs connect for a late game touchdown here to beat the Vikings?
That would be
poetry.
And it would be, but it'd be very sick poetry. That's gross, and
it would be disgusting.
But that is poetry. It's a different form, but it is. God,
it's like you're rhyming, but you're rhyming about death.
We might be looking too much into this one. Maybe we just. Josh Allen hasn't even been ruled out yet, so we'll just go with Buffalo. But God, is it scary for me?
They gotta avenge their loss.
Yeah, they haven't. I don't think they've lost 2 in a row. Oh, I think they did last year, actually, a couple times. So, but Buffalo. Okay, next one, Detroit at Chicago. I'm going to go with the improving Chicago Bears.
Me too.
I think this might be a shootout. This could be a shootout, Luke.
Oh, it definitely will be. I will be taking the over in this. I don't even know what it is, but 2 horrible defenses and 2 like surprisingly underrated offenses. Like when you think about the Bears and Lions, you're like, oh, those are defensive units. Not this year. They're not. They're 2 of the worst in the league. So, yeah. I'll take the Bears in that one too.
When I think about NFC North, I think about defense, honestly. And I think it's mostly because, the only good offensive team really in the past has been the Packers. But this year, besides the Packers, which is kind of surprising, I thought the Packers defense would be way better. But the Vikings defense has really been the only solid defense. The Bears defense has been atrocious. Detroit's defense has been the bottom of the league, but the Bears are catching up to them in terms of being like one of the worst defenses in the league. So good shootout. Justin Fields is playing good football. Jared Goff in that offense can usually score. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you in terms of the over, and I think Chicago deserves a win. Let's go Chicago here.
All right.
Denver at Tennessee, and I have a note about this. I'm picking Tennessee, but Broncos could win if Malik Willis has to start again. Thoughts?
Okay, so you want to just do this. If Tannehill plays, it's Titans. If Malik Willis plays, it's Broncos. You want to do that?
Yep. We've done that a couple of times.
Game time decision.
Yeah. Game time. Yeah, exactly. And I hope Tannehill is not a game time decision. I hope he gets a little practice in before this game. I don't want to watch Malik Willis anymore. And that I think we've only seen him for 2 games, so that's never good. So Tennessee, Jacksonville at Kansas City. Kansas City. Don't think we really have to talk about that one too much. Although it's usually the ones that we don't talk about that end up biting us, but Cleveland at Miami. Tua hasn't lost yet while playing the whole game, so I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
Yeah, me too.
Drake London just caught he just caught a touchdown, and I don't know if it was the same guy because they haven't played the replay yet that hit him earlier. But some guy, whoever just tried to tackle him, didn't even try to tackle him. He just threw his head into Drake London and hit him in the head. But Drake London stayed on his feet. It was the same guy. It was the Woods guy. I wonder if that's Xavier Woods. But Drake London touchdown, so it should be 10-13 or 13-10 here in a second. So yeah, Dolphins. Although Dolphins defense has not been great lately, and Nick Chubb might run all over him.
That's true.
But Nick Chubb is kind of fat, so he might get tired in Miami. Respectfully. Houston at New York.
Right.
At the Giants. So
this is
I'm taking the Giants. And he missed the extra point. Oh, yeah, he missed the extra point. Okay. What the heck,
Koo?
Yeah, I started him tonight. God damn it.
That's your fault, by the way. That's your fault. Because you said it should be 10-13 here in a second. You realize
I dropped
right?
Chris Boswell because the Pittsburgh just sucks. But next game, New Orleans at Pittsburgh, I'm taking the Berg, baby. They're due for a win. What do you think about this one? This one is it's really weird because New Orleans could go to Pittsburgh and pitch a shutout as well, but they've been playing pretty bad lately.
Yeah, I like the Steelers in this one. I like that pick. They're at home.
Mm-hmm.
They might be an underdog. I don't know, but the Saints are just in a really bad spot right now because their team sucks. They're in salary cap hell. They have a first-year coach who really isn't doing that good, and they don't have their first-round pick.
And they won't start Jameis
just
for some reason.
Yeah, just a really and they're making their fans watch Andy Dalton. So
yeah,
if I was a Saints fan, I'd probably kill myself right now if I'm honest.
You can't. That's a Terry Bradshaw quote.
It has to be. Yeah, exactly. Terry Bradshaw.
One thing about the Saints and Jameis Winston, he still is technically medically recovering from four broken bones in his back, but he literally dresses out for every game. So, and I'm sure he's practicing with the scout team at least. So it's not like Andy Dalton's doing enough to where he deserves to keep his job, really. So I don't know why they won't throw him back out there. Maybe Dennis Allen's racist.
Maybe they're racist?
Dennis Allen. Maybe Dennis Allen is racist. Yeah. So, next game, Indianapolis at Las Vegas. And I already talked about Jeff Saturday thing. I'm going to take Las Vegas.
See, that's a smart pick because the Colts are a dumpster fire right now. But the Raiders kind of are too. This is just two teams that are just kind of dumpster fires. And, I think a lot of people are going to be picking the Raiders because, obviously the Jeff Saturday situation, he just came into the building, and that makes a lot of sense. But sometimes these teams just pull off a win. And also, the Jeff Saturday tweet that said the Raiders just really suck, he tweeted that like a week ago. He's like, the Raiders are just really bad. I think that's going to come into play. I think he's going to be on the sideline just telling his players, like, guys, this team sucks. I think we should be beating them. And then he'll probably call run plays, and then his quarterback will get mad for not calling passes. But, I might I don't want to veto for the Colts. That just seems wrong.
Yeah.
A Colts the reason why on the road.
They since Ellinger has started, he started 2 games. He hasn't shown anything that would make you pick the Colts over the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Which is saying a lot because the Raiders are bad too.
Yeah, and I hope the Raiders win because they're one of the 4 teams that are ahead of us in the draft order that I could see taking quarterback. So I hope the Raiders win. I'm rooting for the Raiders in this one.
That could change things too, because what if they know what we know, that Bryce Young looks really good in solid colored jerseys, and what if they're secretly starting to tank?
I mean, they're 2-7. Why would they not start secretly to tank? They're 2-7. They're out of contention.
Yeah, especially
literally, they have to go on an 8-game winning streak just to get to 10-7. They have to win out just to get to 10-7. They're done. Why would you not tank at this point?
Yeah, I can't believe how bad they are this year too. This has kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because, Josh McDaniel, he's just a bad head coach, but his first stint with the Broncos is a little bit kind of like my early days and kind of before my time a little bit. So I guess I just didn't really know how bad of a head coach he is, but they are very bad. So,
Well, I mean,
I like how this
it's not
game
just
is
them,
just
but I
two
think
dumpster fires.
I think they got cursed when they didn't hire Rich Bisaccia because he took them to the playoffs in the middle of a dumpster fire. He was calm, cool, collected. He was a football guy, and I think they got cursed when they let him go, and I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, go back to what you were saying about
two dumpster fires, and this game is literally being played at the Death Star. But you know what, Luke? The Death Star blew up twice, so the Death Star had a decent run where it destroyed a few planets. I guess you could maybe the Raiders' playoff run. You could count that as them destroying Naboo and a couple other planets, Scarif. But now the Death Star is getting ready to blow up with Josh McDaniels. Would you be surprised if they fired him after 1 year? I mean, they are that bad.
No. Yeah, they are that bad, and it's obvious that he's just not the guy. So why would you not?
No. Yeah, I think it's glaring. Like it's very obvious. So long story short, we're taking Las Vegas, but it's definitely a toss-up game. And we're not taking Las Vegas because of the coaching, that's for sure. I'm more taking the NFL. It is my pick week, so these, kind of mentally all fall on me a little bit, but if things go awry. But I'm mostly picking against Indianapolis because their offense has been atrocious, and they hired a head coach who hasn't coached in the NFL at all. So that's kind of my reasoning there. Next game, Dallas at Green Bay. Yeah, you're right. I'm taking Dallas simply because the Packers they're in a downward spiral.
Dumpster fire.
And if they can beat Dallas, then maybe they'll find their way out of the downward spiral, but they have given me no reason to pick Green Bay lately. In fact, they were one of our only two losses last week. They lost to the Lions. So, yeah, I'm not picking Green Bay.
I agree.
I don't think you'll disagree. I mean, in fact, you're hoping for Bryce Young, so I don't blame you. Next game.
Yeah, I mean, the Dallas D is just going to eat apart the Packers. Like we saw how the Packers played against the Lions last week. Just imagine how it's going to be against Dallas, and this has implications with the Mike McCarthy return to Green Bay. So that's going to be interesting.
I didn't even think about that. Oh man, I'm all in on Dallas now. As a big Mike McCarthy guy.
You didn't see his press conference?
No, I haven't. What did he say?
You didn't see the Mike? He almost started crying. They asked him about he's like, you spent so many years. What does coming back mean to you and your family? And he goes, you guys got to cut that bullshit out. I'm going to start crying. And then he redirected the question. He goes, can somebody please ask me about our personnel for this game or something? So he didn't even really he ended up answering it later on. He's like, yeah, it means a lot. It's really cool. Aaron Rodgers said he just wanted to give him a big bear hug, which when I think of Mike McCarthy, I think of a very huggable guy. That guy gives good hugs.
Yeah.
So I would imagine Aaron Rodgers is going to enjoy that hug, and so is Mike. He enjoys every hug,
especially Mike, because he will have just won. So
yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
Next game, and I labeled this one as the Panthers just scored. Hope my dear friend Octavio started Donta Foreman. I don't know if he did or not. We were talking about it earlier, but he just scored a touchdown. We were talking about that earlier today, but my toss-up of the week is Arizona at the LA Rams. in some division play here. I picked the Rams, but my reasoning for picking the Rams was that they're the home team. And what does that even mean for the Rams either? I mean, half the time their stadium is filled with more fans from the opposing team. So any input on this game would be appreciated, Luke. Like I said, toss-up of the week.
I mean, the Rams were kind of the toss-up of the week last week, right? And they lost. So the Cardinals, they're a dumpster fire too. This is a very similar game where it's like both of these teams are underperforming. And when it comes down, I'm going to not base it off who's the home team. I'm going to base it off the quarterbacks. When it comes down to it, I don't trust Kyler Murray in a close game. And I'm also going to base it off the head coaches. When it comes to it, Sean McVay owns Cliff Kingsbury. Like we talk about Kyle Shanahan owning Sean McVay. McVay owns Kingsbury. I don't know what the exact record is, but it seems like every time the Rams and Cardinals play, the Rams just destroy the Cardinals. And I don't think it's going to be any different. So I'll go with the Rams, but I'll have slightly more confidence in them than you, even though their offensive line looks terrible. But the Cardinals are just – I don't even know what to say about the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Get the seventh pick in the draft.
Now that you say that, I can't actually think of a time when the Cardinals beat the Rams with Sean McVay. And I'm sure it's happened, but I can't think of it. So that would take a little more external research. But, yeah, Sean McVay is the better coach, so that helps. That makes me feel a little bit better. So Rams, 2 games left. This is Sunday Night Football. LA Chargers at San Francisco. San Francisco, 7-point favorites at home at Levi Stadium under the lights. Keep in mind they have Christian McCaffrey. With Jimmy G and George Kittle, who's finally starting to play well. And their defense is starting to get a little healthier. So what do you think? I've got the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, I think the 49ers are one of the best teams in the NFC. I mean, outside of like the Eagles or the Cowboys, I think it's the 49ers right there. I mean, even the Seahawks, but I still don't see the Seahawks as like a dominant team, even though I really should. But the 49ers are good. And the Chargers are still kind of iffy. They're up in the air. They've won 2 in a row, so they're due for a loss. So, yeah,
that's true.
Even though Jimmy G in primetime is a risky pick. That's like picking Kirk Cousins in primetime. No matter how good the team is, it just doesn't feel right. But, yeah, I'll take the 49ers.
All right, and that just leaves us with Washington at Philadelphia, and I think Philadelphia. 9-0.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an easy one to pick at the end. That's Monday Night Football, which is interesting that's Monday night. So, yeah.
That's going to be a Manning cast night for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably be doing homework, sadly, but if I was watching, yes. Although I really
kind of a bad week for primetime games if you really think about it.
Troy Aikman and Buck they're probably my favorite cast.
Obviously, Chargers of 49ers is obviously the best one, but the rest of the primetime is just really, really bad. So,
yeah.
And that's going to do it for our picks. So you want to get the simulator ready? We'll have to do it a little bit quicker than last time, but
yeah, we'll have to go. We're already at an hour 38 here. Lots of football talk and discussion, but some good news. This is a Missouri sports podcast, and we briefly touched on the Battlehawks, a little bit about the Cardinals. Blues are finally winning. They're up 4-3 right now over the Sharks. So I saw that. I think they've dropped I was hoping 8 in a row. So
8 in a row. So they have 7 minutes left. They got a 1-goal lead, so we'll see if they can hold it at the Enterprise Center. Oh, they got 6 minutes left now. Scratch that. One thing I wanted to mention, though, we talk about football guys a lot. I was going to mention this with the World Series talk, but I forgot. Dusty Baker just being a baseball guy. I don't know if you saw, he never won the World Series before, which everyone talked about. The final out, as soon as Kyle Tucker caught it, he didn't jump up and down or anything. He turned down, looked at his scorecard, marked the final out on his scorecard, and then started celebrating. So kind of a baseball guy there. You got to finish out the scorecard. So all of his coaches really jumping around him, and he's just right there, finishing up the card. So I respect the hell out of that.
Well,
cool.
There's two ways to look at it, and I like both of them personally. One way to look at it is that, the way that you just talked about it, he's just an absolute seam head, and he respects and loves the game so dearly that he has to carry it out the right way, and so he finishes filling out the scorecard. The other way to look at it is, how is Dusty Baker supposed to know how to celebrate winning the World Series when he's never done it before? So that's the other way to look at it. So
just any old game.
I like both of those analysis on that. So, but yeah, that is a baseball guy for sure. I mean, I think I heard this stat on Pardon My Take. I think he's played or coached in 3% of all MLB games, which I don't even know how that stat makes sense. I mean, there's 30 teams and they all play 162 games every year. So I don't even know how that's possible that he's been a part of 3% of all games, but apparently he has. So he's been in the game for a very, very long time. So yeah. All right. Back to, we're going to do a little simulator. For anybody who's still listening, more for us, really. It seems like if anybody's actually still listening. But which ones do you want to start with, Luke?
We'll just do the AFC, what we started with in the past.
Okay.
So week one, or the first week we did this, was the Chiefs over the Eagles, and then last week we had a shocker with the Falcons beating the Bills.
Not looking great with they're down 11 right now to the Panthers. So.
And they're not going to be in this week's simulator. So,
okay. So the 2-7 game is a division matchup: Chiefs and Chargers.
Ooh. Okay.
Chiefs 3 versus home, 3 versus 6 is Miami at Baltimore.
All right.
Jets at Tennessee is your 5-4.
Ooh. Ugh. Wait, you said Miami
and,
at Baltimore?
Your 1 seed is Buffalo. Yep. 6 versus 3.
Okay, so the Chiefs they shellac the Chargers 38-3. So, tough showing for the Chargers. I guess they're in and out of the playoffs, and then
shock.
Yeah, not really much of a shock. And then the Ratbirds beat the Dolphins 29-14. So Lamar
Revenge
Jackson
game
starts off for who?
For the Ravens. They blew that lead earlier in the season to the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that is right. And then in the 4 and 5 matchup, the Jets pull off the upset 13-9 over the Titans, and that is very much a real
exactly how that game would go.
Yes. So Jets beat the Titans. How about that? So that would be the Bills and Jets versus the Chiefs and the Ravens. Is that right?
Ravens at Chiefs.
Okay, so that's kind of a fun game. That would be the game of the playoffs, I feel like. Baltimore, Kansas
Bills
City.
and Chiefs probably would be.
Yeah. So we had the divisional matchup, right? Bills and Jets. And what happened this past weekend when the Jets played the Bills?
Jets
the exact
won.
same thing that happened in this simulation. Jets beat the Bills 26-7. Not even really that close.
Perfect.
So, and then on the other side of things, we got the Ravens beating the Chiefs. So how about that? In the AFC Championship,
two
has
upsets.
neither the Bills or the Chiefs.
Oh my God!
That is
Zach
something
Wilson,
that
either Zach Wilson in the Super Bowl or finally Lamar. But
this might be Lamar's just revenge tour.
Yeah. It's like his Aaron Judge thing that we always talk about, betting on himself. Also, at this late in the season, Zach Wilson is kind of injury prone. We could be Joe Flacco could be the quarterback right now, hypothetically. So Joe Flacco heading to Baltimore for the AFC Championship game.
Hey,
in the Show Me Show simulator. So who's going to the Super Bowl?
It's the Ravens, 33-17.
All right. Heck yeah, ready for a Lamar Bowl. Even though
that would be fun.
Even though the Ravens are a division rival. I hate them the least. I'll always say that, which is crazy. It's like the Steelers and Ravens fans online actually have a pretty good mutual respect because we're always like the two teams.
They're the Bengals more than the Ravens?
Yeah, and it's mostly, I do. I hate the Bungles more than the Ratbirds. And I think it's just because online Ravens fans aren't as dumb as Bungle fans are, especially back in the past. Like, obviously right now the Steelers suck, but back during like the Vontaze Burfict days when he literally sent Antonio Brown into a different lifestyle during those days and stuff like that. And when they said some pretty disgusting things about Ryan Shazier when he got hurt that set me off back in the day. So, and don't get me wrong, there's some nasty Ravens fans out there. Baltimore people can be crazy sometimes. City of heroin, but they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So let's do the NFC. We get the Vikings versus who?
The San Francisco 49ers.
Ooh, it's a fun game.
Usually it's the Packers in that situation.
Holy shit. Usually it's the Packers in this situation too. San Francisco wins in the biggest win so far. 48 49ers to the Vikings 0. 48-0.
Yikes.
That I don't really see happening. I would be kind of shocked if that happened. So
that's
seven touchdowns.
That's an oddity from the simulator.
I mean,
we had the Falcons in the Super Bowl last week. So. Okay.
It is what it is.
The 6-3 game is a rematch as well. Giants travel to Seattle.
Ooh. All right. This one is going to be the Giants get their revenge with a close win, 20-19. So Giants move on. So two wildcard teams winning early. And then who is the next? Is it Buccaneers?
Dallas at Tampa.
That's just a weird NFL.
Also, I just want to point this out. If the playoffs started today, we would have 3 AFC East teams in the playoffs for the AFC and 3 NFC East teams. So just the AFC and NFC beast is dominating.
And also, just a fun thing to throw out there that the 2 teams that aren't in the playoffs from those divisions are the Patriots, who are the 8 seed, so they're right there, and then the Commanders, who are the 9 seed, tied for the 8 seed. So they're also right there. So the bottom of those divisions is even doing well. So that's kind of an oddity for sure. So
although it's kind of bad that the Commanders are 9.
Yeah, that's really bad. Buccaneers beat the Cowboys 31-7. So not even really close. So I guess 3 upsets here in the NFC round. Kind of. I mean, I would consider that an upset, even though it's at Tampa, but that's still an upset. So you got Philly and is it San Francisco?
Yep. Ooh, this is a trap game.
1 seed versus the 7 seed.
It's a trap game.
Oh boy. San Fran, 17-14.
Knew it.
It's the first time that the Eagles have not won.
Yeah,
You did call it. You did just say this is a draft game.
The Eagles scored all their points in the second quarter in this one, so can't say I'm too surprised here. Blues just scored to seal it.
We have breaking news. Yep, I was getting ready to announce it. Breaking news, Blues score an empty netter. They're going to break the 8-game losing streak against San Jose, who is equally as bad as us. Just to point that out. So kind of a Mickey.
And you know what, Luke? I think we'll pause here. We'll pause here, and I think we should clap it up for the Blues for ending the 8-game losing streak. So let's go ahead and clap it up for the Blues. Congratulations. I think that's win number 4.
Yes.
I want to say that's win number 4.
Yes.
Maybe
it's the start of another winning streak.
A new streak.
Maybe so.
So here we go. So Giants won
Tampa
and Tampa. So that game is New York at Tampa. Lots of offense to be played in that one.
Tampa Bay wins 31-21.
No.
Here we go. Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
In the NFC Championship.
Tom Brady versus San Francisco.
So we have the 4 seed versus the 7 seed. So the worst division winner versus the worst wild card.
Yeah.
But this is actually a very valid matchup. Buccaneers, 49ers.
There's actually more combined losses.
True.
Right now. Their total records are 8. Yeah, their total record right now is 8-9 at this point in the season between the two teams. So, thank you, simulator.
Exactly. These are teams that are built for the playoffs, though, I feel like. So it makes sense. And facing off against the Ravens in the Super Bowl is going to be the 49ers. 21-17 over the Buccaneers. It's a weird one, but makes sense. And then, of course, in the Super Bowl, going to have Lamar Jackson facing off against Jimmy Garoppolo. Cam, what's your pick? What's your pick, Cam?
I think it might be the 49ers. The simulator is favoring them heavy. So I'm going to go 49ers.
Correct in that thinking.
They won
34-13.
Wow, yeah.
So the 7 seed. So we go from the Falcons to the 7 seed, winning it back-to-back weeks. So this just goes to show that anything can happen on the simulator.
Yeah. Any given simulator.
Usually it simulates. Yeah. Usually it does about 400 to 500 simulations. This time it only did 133. And the 49ers won 63% of the time. With 6 overtime matchups. So, yeah, I mean, we've had new Super Bowl teams every time. First it was the Eagles and Chiefs, then it was the Falcons and Bills, and now it's the Ravens and 49ers. So,
based off an intricate
we'll see what happens next
math system. So
exactly. So next week it'll probably be the Vikings playing the Dolphins or something like that. That would be weird. Right. But that's the simulator. That's the show. Long show. We might have to talk about breaking this up into 2 different shows, but because it's a long one. But thank you guys for tuning in and listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Have a good football weekend. I have to make the trip to Carbondale, Illinois Saturday for some North Dakota State versus Southern Illinois Carbondale action. So
how about that? Christian Watson.
Yep.
Trey Lance. Carson Wentz. All right. See you guys next week.